stone cold and he's gone stiff. Gemma, are you sure you checked him at 5 o'clock?
You're under arrest on suspicion of murder.
No!
Listen, you didn't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not make too many questions and put your right to line in court.
On January 5th, 2021, 33-year-old Gemma Barton and 39-year-old Craig Crouch were taken into custody after committing arguably the most disgusting crimes that I've covered this year regarding 10-month-old Jacob Crouch. Jacob died on December 30th, 2020, with Craig and Gemma saying that he was just fine up until the previous night when he didn't eat before bed, and then they found him dead in his cot the next morning around 7 a.m. They called 999 that morning, and when the paramedics arrived, they immediately contacted the police because their story was just not lining up with the evidence. Not even days go by before Gemma and Craig send out this very strange typed up letter to over 20 of their neighbors addressing the death of their son, basically telling all of their neighbors to just leave them alone because they're in so much distress, causing many of those who received it to think twice about what really happened to Jacob Crouch. When the truth came out, the entire neighborhood was in shambles. What they did to 10-month-old Jacob Crouch is unforgivable. The details are harrowing, and viewer discretion is heavily advised for this one. In the middle of 2019, Gemma Barton was living in Derbyshire, England, and she was freshly single after getting out of a toxic relationship with her ex-boyfriend Andrew Smith. Fast forward a few months to September of 2019, and Gemma would have been 4 months pregnant, and apparently she moved on extremely quickly because she was already browsing the website Plenty of Fish, looking for her next catch. It was through that website she would meet a man named Craig Crouch, who was 38 years old, and the two hit it off immediately. Right away, they did away with the online aspect of their relationship, and they met up in person, again while Gemma is still pregnant with this other man's child. Their relationship was moving at an incredibly fast pace, with Gemma falling for him so fast she ignored the many red flags that presented themselves. Gemma is amazed by this man that she met online, mostly because Craig is telling her how accomplished and eventful his life is. Things about his job at the JCB manufacturing company, where he's on a 6-figure salary because he's one of the directors and often has to meet with the other directors, claiming that he's actually often in the JCB helicopter and can be seen flying around. Roughly 1 month into their relationship, and Craig had already started referring to the unborn child as our little boy. Gemma instantly let this man into her life and take the role of this child's father without even knowing who he truly was. Before her child was born, she decided it was time to introduce Craig to her family. The very first time he met her parents was on Boxing Day in 2019, which from what I understand is a holiday celebrated on the first day after Christmas. During this visit, Craig again is going on about himself and how well he is doing at the factory and his nice Jaguar car that he owns. Gemma's family right away smells bullshit coming from Craig. They said it was just easy to tell that he was trying overly hard to impress them and Gemma, and some of his claims were outlandish and described by the family as laughable. They really didn't believe anything that was coming out of his mouth and started becoming very suspicious of who he was and what his intentions were, because he is promising Gemma all of these amazing things like a beautiful, beautiful wedding and a brand new car, when in reality her family knows that they recently just met each other. What he did not tell anyone is that he's just a regular forklift driver at the JCB factory. He's not running the company, meeting with any executives, or flying around in any special helicopter. He's just spewing out nonsense that doesn't exist in attempts to impress Gemma.
Babe, I've come to realise why you're so ugly. It's because you've got makeup on all the time. You go and take it off.
I ain't got none on.
Oh. Oh, okay. You're still beautiful though. You're still, honestly, you're really beautiful. It's a natural beauty. Natural beauty. That's what it is. Yeah. You sure you've got the makeup on?
You keep digging.
You sure you've got the makeup on?
Do you want to put the spade down?
Eventually, the name Jacob was chosen for her baby, who was due in February of 2020. Gemma is obviously turning a blind eye to any signs that she should leave this situation, because after the name Jacob was chosen, she approaches her family once more and tells them she decided she is going to give him the surname Crouch. At this point, her family really starts to question Gemma about her decisions, asking her why she thinks it's a good idea to do this. They thought it was taking it just a bit too far to be giving him the surname already. But regardless of her family's concerns, her and Craig moved forward with giving him that name, and they decided they were going to move in together to be one nice, happy family.
As human beings, we tend to follow a hierarchy. What this means is there always has to be a leader in everything that we do. Look at workplace business. You would never have 2 managers or 2 directors or 2 team leaders over the same amount of people over the same department earning the same amount of money. You just wouldn't have it. You have a chain of command. For example, there is nobody here in exactly the same job that I have over the same people over the same departments. I answer for everyone. Everyone below me answers to me. If they I get my kicked, and then it goes down the chain of command. This also has to stand at home. There is always a hierarchy. Anyway, I should be finished soon. I love you to bits. I can't wait to see you.
On February 17th, 2020, little Jacob Crouch was introduced to the world. He was a happy, smiling child who always found a reason to be laughing. After Jacob was born, Craig Crouch was named on the boy's birth certificate as the father, and the couple took him home. The life of Jacob Crouch was far from comfortable, and he was never cared for by these 2 individuals. He was born into a culture of cruelty in which he had no escape from it, no defense to it, and no real love in it. It's undeniable that there was tons of manipulation and coercion coming from Craig, and Gemma did have a history of mental illness, which makes her more susceptible to this behavior. I want to be clear about this though. Her history of mental illness and misguided attraction to Craig's manipulation is no excuse whatsoever for her actions in this case. She is just as much at fault for the demise of her baby, if not more, being she was his biological mother.
No.
There is always a hierarchy.
Craig and Gemma worked in unison and encouraged one another with their punishments and controlling behavior of Jacob. It's believed that the abuse didn't start until he was roughly 4 months old, and everything that Jacob suffered in his life was discovered when he was examined after his death. So it's unclear exactly when these assaults took place. Text messages between the duo revealed that they would hit Jacob if he was crying for no reason, and Craig would tell Gemma that she needed to be more regimental with him. On another occasion, Jacob had vomited during the day, and Craig texted Gemma asking Gemma if she forced what he threw up back down his throat, and Gemma replied confirming that she had done so, meaning she is forcing his puke back down his throat at this very young age for no reason. They would even refer to Jacob as the devil in one of their text messages. As Jacob got older, Craig would demand that they hit him harder to prevent further frustration for the two of them. At times, Craig would explain to Gemma that Jacob was really pushing him to his limits, and if his behavior didn't improve, he would be forced to leave the relationship, and if they didn't take care of it now, it's for sure gonna end up getting in between the two of them. It's also important to note that the house they were living in was said to be incredibly small, so much so that if one of them was mistreating and abusing Jacob, it would be impossible for the other one to be unaware it was happening. According to the judge who oversaw his case, they had to know it was taking place, meaning neither of them attempted to save Jacob, get him any kind of help, or get him out of this daunting situation where he is in constant pain and mental suffering. They didn't get him any help because this is what they wanted him to go through.
Ambulance, is the patient breathing?
Hello, no, he's passed away.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
We've got a 10-month-old baby. He was struggling to eat last night. He brought up his dinner. We put him to bed. We kept checking him throughout the night. My partner checked him at 5 o'clock. She told me that he was okay. Everything was fine. I've just gone in to go and check him, and he's stone cold. He's gone.
Okay, this isn't delaying any help. Help's coming as fast as it possibly can. Okay, you right?
Thank you very much.
Are you right with the patient now?
I believe he's asleep at the moment.
Okay, so I'm organising that help for you. Stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
Thank you very much.
Are you right by the baby now?
No, I'm in the master bedroom.
Okay, are you able to go to the baby?
Yes. Darling, stay there. Yes, I'm with him now.
You're with him now? Okay, so listen carefully. Lay the baby flat on their back on the floor and remove anything from under his head.
Hold on a second, please. Yes. Oh, yes, I've done that.
Okay, so kneel next to the baby and look in the mouth for food or vomit.
He's covered in his black stuff. I don't know what it is.
Right. So kneel.
My partner says it looks like he's been sick, but it's yeah.
So kneel next to the baby, look in the mouth for food or vomit. Is there anything in the mouth?
No, I can't see nothing.
So now place your hand on the baby's forehead, your other hand
Yes.
over the baby's neck and shoulders, then slightly tilt the head back.
Yes, yeah, I've done that.
Put your ear next to the mouth. Can you feel or hear any breathing?
Look, I'm not being. He's gone. He's stone cold and he's gone stiff. Gemma, are you sure you checked him at 5 o'clock?
Okay, so I realise how distressing this must be for you. Do you feel the baby is beyond any help?
Yes.
Just processing that for you.
Sorry, go on, sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to stay on the line with you until help can be with you, okay?
Hello?
Hello there. Okay, so help's been organised for you. We're sending someone to assist you. Okay, is there anything else we can do for you or your family?
I don't know. He was fine at 5 o'clock.
Okay, you say he was fine at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, he woke me up at 5, crying, and doing a little moan. So I came in and checked on him, and he was curled up at the top of his bed. And so I moved him back down, made him comfy, stroked his face, and he went back to sleep. And I went back to bed. I went to the toilet first, went back to bed, and I could still hear him doing a little moan, like his little settling down, talking. We call it talking to himself.
Yeah.
And then that was it. Teresa, it's not the landline. I haven't got the landline. Sorry.
Okay. Can I just take his name?
It's Jacob Crouch.
Okay, so just hold the line for me one moment. I'm just going to seek some guidance for you. Just stay on the line.
On the morning of December 30th, 2020, Jacob Crouch was found dead in his cot by his parents in their Derbyshire home. They dialed 999 upon discovering Jacob in his cot, claiming they just found him unresponsive, and they tell paramedics that he didn't take his nighttime bottle before bed the previous night. However, when the EMTs arrived on the scene and assessed the young child, they noted that signs of rigor mortis had already begun to set in, leading them to believe that Jacob had been deceased for far longer than the couple was alleging. They said in the 999 call that Jacob had been checked on periodically throughout the night, with the last time being at 5 a.m., and Gemma claimed that he was just fine then. And paramedics are almost certain right away that that is utterly impossible. When Jacob was taken back to the hospital and an autopsy was conducted, the injuries that he sustained, new and pre-existing, tell us an entirely different story of his demise. What you are about to hear is gut-wrenching, and I'll give you one last chance to back out. Jacob had at least 19 visible bruises on his body, adding to the devastating list of internal injuries. He had at least 39 rib fractures. Some of his broken ribs were in different stages of healing, while a number of them were freshly broken in the last hours he was alive. However, it was another injury that Jacob suffered to his abdomen in his final days that led to his death. Jacob died from something called peritonitis, which is an infection of the lining of the abdominal organs. This was caused by a brutal assault where Jacob had either been punched, kicked, or stomped on, causing that tear in his stomach and bowel. From that traumatic bowel perforation, he developed a serious infection in the tissue that lines the inner wall of his abdomen, known as peritonitis, meaning that Jacob would have been in a significant amount of pain and suffering throughout his final days, as the infection spread to his other organs and they began to shut down. According to WebMD, the condition is treatable if taken care of quick enough, and the chances of surviving it depend on several variables, but the death rate can be as high as 40%. According to pathologist Dr. Michael Biggs, these could have only been sustained through blunt force trauma, such as being kicked, punched, or stomped on with severe force. He also added that he normally sees injuries like these ones in car crash victims and those who suffered a multi-story fall. It's important to mention that Jacob's 39 rib fractures were suffered on at least 5 separate occasions. He had a handful of ribs break previously and some break on other incidents until ultimately he had 39 fractured ribs, but they are certain about there being 5 separate occasions where he endured these beatings, with evidence of fractured ribs that were in a state of healing being rebroken by further assaults. It's also stated that Jacob's ribs constantly breaking were the result of an adult's squeezing hands. What mother is going to let a brand new man in her life treat her newborn baby like this? What sick pleasure did she get out of it? Gemma and Craig would text back and forth talking about bathing him in bleach. This boy was in constant pain and suffering from 2 people who were supposed to adhere to his needs as an infant. Instead, they viciously murdered him and then quickly came up with a scheme together to cover it up. Within days of the Wednesday that Jacob was reported to be deceased, a large number of neighbors to the couple received an extremely odd, typed-up letter neatly put into an envelope and placed on their doormats. Roughly 20 to 30 of their neighbors reportedly got this same letter delivered to their house. The fact that they got a letter from them was strange, but the contents of it made it even more confusing. The letter read, "Good evening, neighbors. This is easily the hardest letter I will ever have to write. To make this easier for us over the next coming weeks, we want to take this opportunity to explain why we had first response units, an ambulance, and several police officers at our home on Wednesday. Devastatingly, we have lost our beautiful 10-month-old boy. We woke up Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. to find him no longer with us. 999 was called, but sadly it was too late. We know some people that saw us regularly will ask us where our little boy is, and we do not wish to relive our loss over and over. Thank you for any kind thoughts you may have, but we are also asking for people not to send us cards, etc. We are in so much pain. Jacob will never be forgotten. Thank you for your time. Kind regards, Craig and Gemma. Rightfully, many of the neighbors felt sorrow for the couple, but they also immediately became wary and suspicious of Craig and Gemma, and why they felt the need to send this letter out so quickly after Jacob's death. Little did they know, the authorities were already investigating his death, due to their story not lining up with the evidence. Investigators knew for a fact that Jacob had been deceased for far longer than the couple was claiming, and there's just no way he was alive and well at 5 a.m. like they said. It didn't take the investigators long to find the evidence they needed in order to obtain the arrest warrants for Craig and Gemma, showing up to their house on January 5th to take them into custody.
Just listen to what I'm saying to you. So, minute, you're under arrest on suspicion of murder. Listen, you don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not make too many questions and put your words to line in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, okay? So your arrest is necessary for a prompt and effective investigation, okay?
Gemma, try and breathe for a second. Try and breathe. Right, I'm going to put handcuffs on you, okay?
I promise you, but please don't.
We have to do it with everybody.
Can I not? Because I've got no shoe or anything.
You can sort that.
We can sort that. I'm just going to put these on. Right, hands behind your back.
Listen to what I'm about to say to you. At this time, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder of Jacob. You do not have to say anything that may harm the defence if you do not mention when questioned something which may find the court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. Turn around for me.
You won't need them.
I'll come with you. Just turn around for me. The necessity for your arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Following their arrest, the officers got a hold of their cell phones, and that's how they got a better understanding of their treatment and mindset towards Jacob. Finding the messages about bathing him in bleach, forcing his own vomit back down his throat, and all of the abuse. During their 7-week trial, there was a lot of testimony to be heard. Most devastatingly, that had Craig or Gemma called for medical assistance for Jacob before he died, he likely would have survived. Derby Crown Court Judge, Mr. Justice Kerr, stated during the sentencing of these two that the night of the 29th of December in 2020, Gemma had to be aware that Craig Crouch had viciously attacked the child, causing these life-threatening injuries, yet she did nothing to get him help or save his life. Jacob, without a doubt, would have been systemically unwell during his final days and hours alive, and any parent with an ounce of care could notice this. Another person who testified their pain was Jacob's biological father, Andrew Smith, who was broken by this. He spoke on the fact that he never got to meet Jacob, and sadly only has a picture to remember him by now. Furthermore, saying, quote, "I will never be able to hug him and celebrate his achievements. You have taken Jacob and all of the memories we would have shared." When the jury came back after 4 days of deliberation, they delivered a guilty verdict for both of the suspects. However, Gemma was not convicted of murder. It was determined she did not kill her son herself, but she allowed him to be killed and did nothing to help him, care for him, or save his life when she had the opportunity. 33-year-old Gemma Barton was convicted for allowing his death and 1 count of child cruelty, and she was sentenced to 10 years in prison for letting her son be tortured and murdered, in which she is to serve half of her sentence locked up. She saw all the bruises, she knew that he was suffering, and she did absolutely nothing but join in on the cruelty and abuse her son until he died. 39-year-old Craig Crouch was convicted of murdering 10-month-old Jacob, as well as 3 counts of child cruelty. He was sentenced to a minimum of 28 years in prison for his crimes. It's utterly appalling that she will be out before the decade passes and free to have another child if she pleases. She shouldn't have a lighter sentence than he does. She's just as dangerous to the child that she gave birth to. Jacob Crouch was undeniably a strong soul who fought as hard as he could to stay alive. He had an unbreakable spirit, and he somehow found a way to smile and laugh throughout his ordeal. He had so much life left to live, so many things to learn, and a lot of genuine love to give and receive. He was never given the opportunity to experience life and grow into the amazing man that his family knows he would have been. Jacob's maternal grandmother had a statement read out in court about her grandson, saying, quote, "He was such a happy little lad. He was sitting on the floor and crawling about, and I remember he was playing with his granddad's walking stick. We have lost the opportunity to see Jacob grow up. We will never see him have his 18th birthday, get married, and have children of his own. It will always be heartbreaking when a family loses a baby, but even more gut-wrenching when they are killed by the ones who are supposed to love and care for them. I feel devastated for Jacob and the violent short life that he had to experience. As a baby brought into the world, he deserved the nurturing a child needs to thrive, and Gemma failed him miserably. Rest in peace to Jacob Crouch, who died on December 30th, 2020. May his memory live forever." Alright guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. If you made it to the end, go down to the comment section and comment "keep her in jail" so I know. If you want to, you can follow me on Instagram at Robert Clausen with 2 N's. If you have a story suggestion, DM me on there. I think that's all I have for you guys today. Again, I truly, truly appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.